So we are now joined by women's volleyball head coach Don Perkins. How are you doing, Coach? You had a very successful season. It started off a little bit rough. It started off, the team was 5-9 at one point heading into October, but October the team had a phenomenal run, shutting out 7 of their opponents as well as winning 9 of your games. What went into such a successful run throughout the month of October?
We had a really young team, and even though our sophomores hadn't really been through a full year of experience. So, I mean, we had 6 people in their first regular season, their first full season, that were in our day-to-day lineup, and 5 or 6, and depending on what we did that day. And we played some really good teams in the fall, and some of them we knew NYU was going to be good. We know Cleveland was going to be so good. They ended up being the number 2 team in New York regions. So Baltimore was good. That was a good win for us early in the season. Our girls knew that we could play really good volleyball. We had trouble finishing early on, and kind of that you get a lead and you're up 22-20, and it seems like we caught a million of those. And but you gotta crawl before you can walk. You got to walk before you can run. And this team had to cough up a few leads before they realized what was involved in winning Division III games, winning games in the college level, and making an impact. The first part of the season, it was Marine who won their league, it was Cortland who won their league, it was NYU who won their league, it was Wesleyan who was top 25 at some point for a good chunk of this of their part of this of the season. Penn State Barron won their league. There was just a bunch of really good teams, and we learned from every one of them. And I think that the New Paltz is always a really good team. Hunter won their league. Things kind of around. We just got enough, calluses and scar tissue, I guess, to and learned enough lesson that we were able to kind of turn the tide on some of those matches. And I think New Paltz is a match that we probably would have lost if we played that 3 or 4 weeks earlier. But at that point in the season, or any point past that, our girls had we're here again. Well, we know what to do now. We've been here before. And so Drew was won a lot of games. They beat Montclair, they beat Paltz, they beat Stockton, and we never let them get off the mat. Our girl, didn't look like a competitive match, but it wasn't a competitive match because we never let them string 2 or 3 points together. We kind of, we stayed focused, and so, well, that wasn't that impressive. You won by a lot or whatever, but like, that's how impressive it was for me, was that we never let them get the ball rolling. And Rowan is by all accounts the best team in the league this year. When they came to our place in the end of October, we gave them everything they could handle. But we had match point, and we made 2 mistakes that we didn't need to make. So, I mean, there's still some youth in there. There's still, we're still, gaining that experience that you need to be successful. But what we were able to do on talent and enthusiasm, and just ability, while we put together those, get that experience under our belt, what we were able to do without it was really, I thought, impressive. And I'm really happy with the way this team performed this year.
For sure. You ended up 18-12 on the season. You went into the postseason and you played Rowan just about a week after. But you went into Rowan, who did end up winning the Ecac Championship about a week after. What did you tell your team after you played an incredible 5 sets against Rowan, heading into the second round of the playoffs?
Rowan's outside hitter had the best day of her career. It's like, well, she won't do that again. And then a week later, she actually had a better day. So she just really liked playing us, I guess. We did everything we needed to do to put ourselves in position to win. And literally, it was one play here and one play there. And that was not a clean game. Like the one match, you can count the mistakes there than mine, it would take a calculator. I mean, we did a million things wrong and we still were in a position. It's like, you can do this. And the credit to Natalie Ogden, who's the outsider for Rowan. It's a senior who was very determined, who put her team on her back both matches and just said, I'm not going to let us lose tonight. And we didn't have a senior. We didn't have, we didn't have anybody that we had expected to play a role like. So when we got into, who's got the high card, they had the high card. We both had, houses or whatever, and they just had, a little bit more. But Rowan's a good team. It's a good coach. And their head coach was going through cancer this year. And, some teams, they're either going to crack or they're going to be hardened by it and motivated by it. And that was fired up. Every time, every game, not just the two times we played them, but every game I saw on video or watching them online during the season, they were not distracted. They were not, lazy. They were on a mission. And that's, when we lost in the playoff game, I went in the hallway and I'm like, that's what the next step for us looks like. Playing with that, just that much more intensity, having players who are willing to dig that deep to score the last 2-3 points of a set. And, so a couple of our girls, kind of acknowledge that, like they had a gear that we didn't have. But 1 through 9, 1 through 10, I think, would I take my roster over theirs? I take my roster every day of the week. It just, they just happen to have that one more thing that you get when you play an extra 2 years or whatnot. And so that's, it's credit to them, but I mean, I still, I take nothing but good things away from those matches.
And, afterwards, I know the team was a little bit bummed about the way the season ended, but you did go on to play in the ECAC Championships. You played Alfred State in the first round, and I believe you won three sets to 1. And then you went on to play Rutgers Camden for the 3rd time that season. And for lack of some better words, Rutgers Camden just cannot stop the team, especially players like Ann Beckmeyer. Can you just speak about what it meant to play Rutgers Camden again, and then speak on what Ann and some of the other players meant in that championship?
Well, first, I'll just go back to ECACs for a second, and that's something Lakeitha Murray came in and said, is this something you want to do? And I hadn't even thought of it. It wasn't something I thought was going to be available to us. So I really want to thank the administration for proposing that as an opportunity for us. The way our season ended with a championship ECAC versus how our girls thought the season was going to end after the rowing game, the tears and heartfelt, the heartbreak from a heartfelt loss, to lifting a trophy 8 days later was night and day. And I think the motivation that gives us going into the off season and kind of how they view the whole shape of the season changes based on the ability to do that. So I really want to thank our administration for making that available to us. I just so much of a better experience overall. Alfred State was, I think, 19-3 or something, that they hadn't played a lot of teams on our level. But when you watch them play bad teams, it's like, well, that's what a great team would look like playing a bad team. So we didn't know what we were getting into. They won the first set. We had just gotten off the bus, but we settled down and played really well. Morgan Hall had a big night and played well. Ashley finished the season really strong, and including at ECAC. The team looked good, and we felt pretty good. We'd beaten Camden twice and whatnot. And then had won 7 games. They were in the last 10 games, they were 7-3, and all 3 losses were to us. So I mean, they were a good team. They had an interesting mix. They had like 6 seniors and like 5 freshmen. So I guess freshmen and sophomores, but again, the sophomores are still in their first real season too. And so including the rookie of the year, who was an All-American, for the rookie of the year for the NJAC. And so that's a good team. And when you have freshmen like that on the court, like, well, are they going to get better? And their middle certainly did from the first time we played them to the third time we played them. She, was it her getting to see what Ann and Kayla were doing, or other things they were, I don't know, but she got a lot better. But for some reason, just a bad matchup for them. What we do and what they do, just the scale kept leaning our way. And ours worked hard to make sure that it stayed that way. Camden worked really hard. Like I said, they did improve. And did some things that they, by the third game, they made some adjustments that they didn't make in the first game. We have to come back and make adjustments, and making adjustments is a veteran thing. And so, like I said, we had a young team. So the end of the season to make adjustments and be able to do those things really said a lot about our progress over the course of the season. Anne was on, like, defensively, had 12 blocks against Camden the first time. Offensively, she was at an average night second game. And then the third game, it was really, really good. And I think her numbers were even better in the third set. I think she made a couple errors in the third set after the game was kind of out of reach that made her numbers a little more pedestrian than they really were. She's a freshman who doesn't play like a freshman anymore. Her, if I went back to the video, or if I had a practice video, I could probably circle a moment, because it just seems like a light went off in her head at some point around mid-September. And she's like, oh, I got this. And, started hitting better shots and started closing blocks and just had a better attitude, optimistic attitude about, what she could accomplish. That we have for 3 more years. I'm a little excited about that, she's a great kid, wonderful student, incredible artist. And that's a lot of our girls have other things to do pretty well too. And Anne's is art. And I think as much as we're going to appreciate the heck out of her volleyball abilities for the next 3-4 years, I think the world's going to get to know her as an artist for many years beyond that. So,
and she had a ton of awards throughout the season, and you mentioned it. She won MVP of the ECAC tournament. She won ECAC Metro Rookie of the Month for the month of October, Rookie of the Week, Defensive Player of the Week. So she really piled up throughout that month.
Team all conference, and I honestly thought she had a chance to be all region, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. But her 22nd, 23rd in the country in blocking. And I think, it's easier to recognize somebody for their offense. I think in any sport, people recognize offense, but defense is the hard work. Defense is it makes a difference. Most people come in as freshmen and don't really make that kind of impact on defense. But so I don't know if she had a normal growth curve, who knows what her defense is going to look like by the time she's a senior. Yeah.
And not only her, you had a couple of other impressive freshmen as well. Just to point out a couple names, Julia Vaca and Taylor Michaud. Can you speak about how the three of them, but can you speak about the first day you met them, or not met them, but the first day they walked into Harwood Arena versus where they grew throughout the season?
Yeah. Well, first off, recruiting in a pandemic, we had not seen any of them. We didn't, we saw a video of Anne, we saw a video of Julia, we saw a video of Taylor, but and I told him, I said, I don't know that I would have put the three of them, had, a normal recruiting cycle and we had a bigger recruiting board and whatever, like when I put the three of them together, probably not. They're all so nice. It's got to be a little bit mean, and in a class. And not one of them has a mean bone in their body. They're great kids. But no, and Julia started the season. She played a lot in the early part of the season. We were playing with moving Anne to the right, and so Julia got more time in the middle. And she did good. She is, starting level as a freshman. That's what a middle in the end jack looks like as a freshman. Like she's right where she needed to be. Just happened that she was behind, 2 players that, like I say, I thought Anne would have been an All-American as Kayla was. So like when you're behind 2 players at a level, she kind of gets overlooked a little bit. But Julia's really good. And we're excited to have her. Taylor is a different athlete, man. And it showed up on video in recruiting. I remember watching him. There's a the highlight clip, and you're just first thought is like, there's no way she's going to get a touch on that ball. And then the clip unrolls, and like, not only she gets her feet, she doesn't dive for it. She gets her feet there, turns around. I'm like, I watched it like 3-4 times. I'm like, how did she do that? You know, and then you get her in the gym. I've been around volleyball, God, 28 years. There was in preseason, it was a daily occurrence where Taylor would do something with the volleyball that I'd never seen before. Mm-hmm. And she's, I mean, I'm the last person to want a 5'5" outside hitter, but man alive, is she electric. Still a freshman, still, you know, ups and downs and making mistakes and some of that stuff. But there's not a play in the game that she can't make, and some of the plays that she made this year, I didn't know we could expect. So, and that was one of the things, you know, she didn't start right away, but part of it was just trying to figure out, like, she can't do this and this, but then when we actually get her in the game and you realize she does the things that you didn't even think of, you're like, okay, I just got to trust that, you know, so some of the things, you know, are unbalanced. She's going to make more good things happen than bad things happen. And when she got her opportunity and cracked them in the lap, she really made that happen. And again, just, you know, sweetest, nicest kid, no ma'am, you know, and works really hard. So it's a good group. And freshman class also included Maddie D Martini, who was at Kean last year but didn't play because of the pandemic and some of the things that came along with that. Maddie played almost every set this year. So again, I mean, typically you don't win with freshmen, but we relied on a group of them a whole lot. We also had first years. Kiara Brenna was a first year. She and Gigi Morla, both of them had some fought the injury bug throughout the season, but also, you know, important parts of our team. And Jelana Fitzmaurice, she got her in preseason and wasn't able to make it to the court, but you know, she's another one, a first year player that we were hoping was going to make an impact. So, you know, we'll see what this group looks like as they mature and get older and get some more experience under their belt. Yeah, I mean, we're excited is an understatement. They're really something to watch.
The team was electric throughout the season. I loved watching just every match that I could because I knew I'd see something special. And you mentioned Kayla Thornton. She was an All-American, and I believe she led the NJAC in hitting percentage, which was absolutely incredible. Can you speak on what her impact was throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of our girls have other skills. Kayla is actually in the architecture program, interior design program, with like a 4.0 GPA. And, you know, it's like, that should be pretty hard. You shouldn't be able to have that much energy left over to go, you know, play volleyball that well. Phenomenally nice kid, phenomenal athlete. She's the highest as far as like jumping and what you can touch. I think the second highest in of the 12 years I've been here. The only one higher was Zoe Strzezuski, who was a 2-time All-American. So, I mean, Kayla's right there. Athletically. Offensively, there is, you know, you struggle with things to teach her because she's that good. Most of what we talk about with her is defense, as just, you know, and closing blocks and you know, where she's facing and what her hands are shaped like and stuff like that. But offensively, she's, you know, I mean, nobody's a perfect weapon, but she's as close as they come. And yeah, the only player who hit a higher hitting percentage, the only one was Zoe, maybe Sarah Ridgway, who was also an MVP. So, I mean, Kayla, if we won a couple more games, Kayla was, you know, had a profile to be an MVP candidate. They don't give the MVP to the fourth place team, but, you know, typically. But she had those kind of numbers in the kind of season. And no matter how good her last one, wanted to work harder, you know. She hit 700 against Merchant Marine Academy, and she's like, I want to work on this today. And you're like, how many people hit 700? You know, if you hit 300 in a match, you should be like, you know, people walk around like, yeah, I'm good, you know. And she hit 700, and you're like, I need to get better at this. And you're like, okay, let's go. And, I think honestly, her hitting percentage probably would have been higher. Her utilization probably would have been higher had our setting situation. So Kylie was fighting some injuries this year and wasn't able to practice as much. So there was a couple games in there where the connection between Kayla and Kylie wasn't really what it needed to be, and so we had to kind of run our offense elsewhere. But when you run the middle the way we run the middle, we're pretty aggressive with it. We run the middle more than almost anybody. It's high risk, high reward, and when it's not there, it's not there. So there's a couple games. In fact, the first rowing game, Kayla was almost non-existent because we just couldn't get the ball the way the passes that led to the sets that led to the wasn't a lot there to do run her the way we want to use her. And so I think if we had if Kylie had been able to practice every day, if we'd been able to keep that connection and not had to work, had Kayla working with other setters and one of the setters she had to work with our assistant coach, which is a big change. Jenna's as great as she is not a setter. That can, it's just hard to focus and for someone, and in the position that we put Kayla in. So I think, the only thing that held her back probably was us, offensively, she's just incredible.
Definitely. There were a lot of games where I was, again, just blown away. I was like, my God, how many kills does she have? And I'd look up at the board and be like 12. It's the second set. And I'm like, oh, gee, she still has another one to go.
One of the kills she had against Rowan that first match was Kylie had the ball about 14, 15 feet off the net, which nobody runs that to the middle. Like, you don't even think of it. And Kayla was up and Kylie gave her the ball and we got the kill. And it's like, but like I say, like the hitting percentage could have been higher, but like we used her that like in situations that nobody else, if we had her in a traditional middle roll, she might have hit 400 or 420, she wouldn't have had as many kills, but her percentage would have been like through the roof.
Oh yeah. Before I let you go, I do have a question regarding your assistant coaches. And you mentioned already Zoe Strusky, Sarah Ridgway, they were all Americans for under you as head coach. And one of the constants has been Audrey O'Donnell and Jenna Lara also being an amazing assistant coach. Can you speak about their impact to the team?
Yeah. So Audrey was with me my first year here when we were turning this around. We were 0-8 in the end that year. And then she went coached at Montclair and the Stevens. She's an alum of Stockton. She was an All-American middle herself. And she came back. She had coached club for a player named Vicky Steck. And Vicky's coming here and she's like, yeah, I'll come back to work with Vicky. And we got her in the gym and it was Sarah Ridgway and Jessie Larkin. And she had these middles. And Audrey just kind of passed along what she knew. And they were both smart kids. They soaked it up. And we had a setter who just, who I don't know if Bree was Bree, I don't know if she was afraid of Jessie, just that good friends with her or whatever, but she gave her, found ways to set her the ball. And we're like, hey, this works. And so we've kind of, Kylie, we want you to run this the same way. So that's where the middle thing kind of comes from. But Zoe came in and she became an All-American middle. And now Kayla came in and she's, so in, 2017, 4 seasons, we've had 5 All-American awards, all middle hitters. And the amazing thing is at this point, Audrey was actually out, was missed a lot this year. She had a baby over the summer, so she was in and was always in contact with us, but she wasn't in the gym as much as she had been before. And so Jenna was also a middle at Stockton, knew a lot of the same things that Audrey had been exposed to, it the same way Audrey had, and did a lot of the work. And bring Kayla and Ann along, and there's things I know from Audrey, and there's things Jenna knows from Audrey and from her, just her own experience, and bringing those two along. And so, I've used hashtag sometimes Kean U as middle U, because we just use middles, so much more than anybody else does. But when you have, coaches that know what to do with them, it just opens things up and honestly, we run the middle. I was looking at the hitting percentage a couple years ago. I was like, why is Stockton's hitting percentage so much higher than ours? It's because they had two really good middles. Now we've gotten to the point where our middles are well, I mean, I guess this year maybe not arguably, but they still have really good middles. But like, I think our middle game has surpassed theirs even. So, but it was, that was kind of the motivation. Like, how do we hit a higher percentage? And we were 53rd, 54th in the country in hitting percentage this year. And a lot of, if a middle has a good game, they're going to hit 300, 350. If an outside has a good game, they're going to hit 200, 250. So as the more you can run your offense through the middle, the higher hitting percentage, it's just more efficient. But it's hard. You got to have players with the athletic ability, the right mindset, the right technical ability. And so we've kind of built ourselves around that a little bit. And so the legacy here at middle recently is pretty strong. And so, and I say that, we did a lot of coaching. I mean, Zoe had good coaching before. Jesse had good coaching before. Sarah and Kayla played for the same coach in South Jersey. They were all, the hardworking, smart people. But, having somebody like Audrey and Jenna to kind of like, hey, that's good. This is a little bit better. And I know, Ann came in and ran the 31, which is the quick set to the left of center. And she ran it the way that most people run their 31s. And they're like, okay, but you're here now. We need to do it this way. And all of a sudden it made all the difference in the world. Not that she couldn't have been, done what she did doing her way. Just to fit the way we want to run it, we needed to make a couple adjustments. And then I think the other part you talk about the assistants is just that I'm pretty easygoing. Jenna is not. So it's a great compliment. The players have commented on that, how they like the kind of the yin and the yang of the two of us together. Audrey is technical and strategic and detailed. I'm big picture, and so there's, complementing each other and finding people that work, that fit well together is one of the hardest things, especially, we don't have full-time assistants. I don't have, John Calipari's 27 assistants down the bench. I have, a little bit of money to scratch together as much experience and knowledge as I can find. And when you can find two people that fit with you and with each other and with the team like they do, I'm, just praying every day to hold them together as long as I can, because they have the ability to help players on the court. And then the other thing that's key in a coaching role, they genuinely care about these kids and want that, what we do on the volleyball court is secondary to what those girls are going to do, for the next 4 years in their lives as teachers and lawyers and mothers and sisters and whatever. And so, seeing these girls grow up over these 4 years is just a huge reward for that. And, I let them work with good girls and they stay. And so, we get to keep the coaches get to, are there for the players. And then the players are there for the coaches, and it's it's kind of a family of sorts. So.
For sure. When I talked to a couple of players, they said that they wanted to show everyone that they had a bond on the court, and it definitely shows.
Yeah. No, and that's, there are programs out there where the team shows up for 2 hours to play volleyball and then goes home. And, people ask me like, well, do you make us room with our teammates? I'm like, I don't make you room together. I don't make you work together. I don't make you go on vacation together. I don't make you take classes together. Our players do that because they like each other. And they talk about being bridesmaids, and they talk about raising their kids together. And I've been here long enough to actually have players that raise their kids together. So it's I mean, obviously you want to win, and that's the genesis, the motivation for all of it. But there's a lot of good things that happen along the way, just the bonds and connections and maturation. And, I remember a couple of years ago, we had a player, Caitlin Hansen, and she walked in. I swear I could put my fingers around her bicep. And she was walking out of practice one day as a senior, and she had like the muscles in her back, looking at her, I was like, she came a long way. And and that, just physically it's easier to see, but I mean the emotionally, mentally, academically, some of them come just far, and that's as a coach is really rewarding to see all these players, these little girls become amazing.
Definitely. Congratulations again on your second ECAC championship, and good luck next season. Thank you for your time, Coach.
Well, good luck with the podcast. I hope this goes, and hopefully we'll get to do this sometime.